Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is our very first episode talking about sales and leadership. With me in the studio is Simon Rodriguez. We welcome everybody to be here tuning with us, and we truly appreciate if you can take some time, share your thoughts, your feedback, your comments. It's really important for us. The more we hear from you, what is it that you're interested in knowing more about from the sales and leadership perspective? The more we will bring those insights to you in our upcoming episodes. So I'll leave the floor to Simon to share his initial thoughts. Hey, welcome, Simon.
Thank you, Wajid, and thank you everyone for joining, for tuning in. We certainly look forward to starting the discussion here to contribute and to share perspectives about sales and leadership. And this is something obviously we want to share with the broader audience and get your thoughts, your feedback, and additional comments and ideas as well. So we really look forward to this session, and I think we're ready to dive in. So I'll hand it over back to you, Wajid.
Thank you, Simon. Sounds good. So the reason we wanted to get into this mode of podcast, and we thought about why it is important for us to bring these insights to our friends, our LinkedIn community, our colleagues, our peers in the industry. Since between me and both myself and Simon, we have worked together for many years. Uh, we have shared a lot of insights, learnings with each other, but we thought we should bring it to the global platform here and utilize this digital platform for our people to learn from our experiences, uh, what good and what bad we have seen in the industry, and how we can bring that together and make it useful for the people who are connected to us. Because what we have seen, especially in this when it comes to sales and leadership, there is a lack of training. There's a lack of ownership when it comes to learning and I'm not talking about the self-learning, but the learning that is provided by the corporations, the organizations. Very least amount of time or very least amount of focus is given to that aspect of development when it comes to the team development. So between both of us, we thought we should take this initiative and start this podcast, and then as we go along, we will bring more insight and we will add to the next episodes. But I thought we should begin from here and get the feedback from you guys. So a little bit about my background. I've been working in the industry, in the sales industry particularly, um for more than 17 years now. I have worked both internationally and locally in multiple languages as well across multiple continents. So I thought if I have that experience and I bring that to the table and I'll share that with the people here, it will be really useful for anybody who is watching and who is following. And I will just take a pause here because I feel like your feedback will guide us to which direction you want us to go. So I'll leave it to Simon to give his intro, and then at that point we will go with the rest of the podcast. So Simon.
Thank you, Wajid, and we certainly look forward any thoughts, any comments from you, from the people joining the session, and a little bit about my background. So I've been in the sales area, specifically on technical sales and specifically energy sector for the last 18 years. And very similar to Wajid, I've been supporting organizations, customers across North America and also South America and other regions as well. Most of that experience obviously encompass many areas in terms of consultative sales and guiding customers, meeting customers where they are, and supporting their journey. And one of the reasons we wanted to share with you those basically those lessons learned, some of those practices is a way to contribute to the community and also share perspectives and experiences. So with that, I think we will be going into some of those open topics and some of the questions you might have as well. So I think we should be ready to dive into some of those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Simon. And as we go along and into this conversation, so those who are listening and tuning in to this live session, or whoever is watching it in the recorded session, you can always, if you're live here, you can always put your comments, and they will come live on the screen, and we'll try to address those as we go along. But if you're watching this podcast as a recorded session, just feel free to leave your comments in the comment section below that you would see you get added on the LinkedIn comment section. And between me and Simon, we'll make sure that we address those comments, whether right away in the comment section, or we can have a separate episode on those to address those comments. So, Simon, you raised a good point about consultative sales, or call it value selling. When it comes to that in our industry, particularly when it comes to, and I think it generally applies to any industry, but since we are in the energy sector for many years, and we have seen a lot of and interacted with a lot of leadership and salespeople. I guess part of the challenge is that uh, value selling is something that I'll call it consultative selling. It is something that needs a specific kind of mindset, a particular kind of mindset, and that mindset comes with of course with experience, but at the same time it comes with whom you work with. And by that I mean that if you have a mentor that actually guides you and takes you along with the journey and make you understand how you will handle those sales situation when it comes to technical sale. What I've seen in the industry, people that actually comes from the sales background, and I guess that is something that needs to be addressed. That people come in and they right away try to sell their product or their concept or their solution without understanding the actual need of the customer. And I think that's what actually led us to think about starting this podcast. What are your thoughts about similar situation that you might have faced in your career?
Yeah, I mean, 100% right there. When you remember that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So, to your previous point, and that applies ultimately into sales, you need to obviously focus on the customer rather than just presenting a solution without previously understanding what are those drivers, what is that pain point, what is it that the customer is trying to accomplish, to achieve. And I think that's kind of the mindset that you're talking about, that we regardless of the experience or how good your product, your solution, your offering, your service is, you need to start with a clear understanding of the customer or the prospects, drivers and needs. Once you have that pain, or you understand those challenges that they're facing, then you can position yourself as a trusted advisor. Ultimately, that's where you want to be. You want to be a trusted advisor as opposed to just a salesperson. So you highlighted an essential and critical point, which is the mindset. Oftentimes in sales, we think about, where all the benefits and all the highlights of the products and services, but ultimately we need to take a step back and focus on the customer journey. What is it that they're trying to accomplish? And oftentimes we need to understand that customers, they are in different stages in the buying process, right? We might find perhaps a prospect, a customer, they're just evaluating initially into, or trying to understand if they even have a problem they're trying to solve. We do have our customers or prospects, they do have a clear indication of what is it that they're trying to solve. So that mindset, as you highlighted, is quite important to be cognizant to where the customer is as part of its journey, where it is that they're focusing on, and trying to not only knowing much about your product, but caring, or let's say understanding the customer perspective. I think that's essential in this business in particular.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and And I guess when initially, and perhaps it's really kind of a natural when when you're really beginner in your sales journey, and even if it is B2C sale or if it is B2B sale, it doesn't matter. I guess if you're if you're a beginner in your sales journey, what happens is you have a natural tendency of jumping into the selling mode without, to your point, without diagnosing the actual root causes or without diagnosing the pain points. You just right away jump into the prescription mode and you start selling, right? And I'm saying it's natural because I guess when you hear the word sale or selling, you feel like you have to right away jump into that mode and you have to start selling. But I guess as the time goes along, and as I mentioned earlier, if you have a right mentor at the beginning of your career who can guide you and make you understand that how does the value selling work, and if you gain that concept from the very early stages of your career, uh, you would be able to build a long-term relationship with the customer, which will be much more recurring, um, even if you're in a B2B or B2C industry. So again, I'm just alluding back to the importance of the training and importance of mentorship when it comes to the sales and leadership. And I'm mentioning the word leadership here because the role for the leader, if it is a sales leader, or if it is a leader in a technical role, his role or her role is to basically make sure that there is a, a foundation or a platform provided to the team so that the team following that leader can grow, can understand, can be aligned with the same vision of that leader or that organization. So sales or selling is one thing, but sales leadership is a different thing, right? And and essentially or eventually, I guess a salesperson turns into a sales leader at one point in time in his or her career. So I'm just bringing all this in together since it is our first episode and we're just doing some kind of high level discussions here. Call it a fireside chat. But what do you think? Do you think that having a leadership, especially when it comes to sales leadership, how important it is for that leader to understand the the process behind developing a sales rep or a salesperson?
Yeah, I think that's essential. I mean that sales process, that even that mindset, that approach should come from the obviously from the leadership within the organization, and that sales leader being able to cascade that approach, that mindset, that process as well, because ultimately it's having a structured sales process is essential. I mean, you mentioned the larger the organization, when you have multiple reps and multiple account managers, etc., that you're working with, you need to have a very well structured process in which call it value selling, or if it is solution selling, Sandler methodology. There are multiple processes and they all have pros and cons. They're really good sales processes and methodologies. But once leadership defines or establish one process or one specific methodology in terms of going about sales within the organization, it's important to get that guidance and getting cascading that messaging within the group, right, within the sales team. So to your point, I think that comes from leadership and being able to properly articulate what the position from the company is in terms of the sales structure and the process, because I think that's paramount. Oftentimes we think about sales, that is something that we just go and present the product or solution, but it requires a well-structured process in terms of discipline, in terms of understanding and researching, obviously, the organization, the customer. All those different elements need to be part of a larger process. So in my view, process is the sales process is essential. And to your point, what it needs to come also, number one, from the organization once they have established a particular sales process or methodology, and also from the sales leader being able to cascade that message to the rest of the sales team. And obviously you will have alignment, and then you will have the proper tools and platform to work closer with your customers, with your prospects.
Yeah, yeah, that's these are all great points. I think, as you mentioned, the sales process is really essential. It's crucial. If you're a sales leader, or a sales organization, or a sales rep, no matter what's your title or what's your role is, but if you don't have an established sales process, you may get lucky, and you may hit your quota for the first quarter, maybe for the second quarter, but you cannot have that repeated success if you don't have a sales process in place. So it's really essential, really critical to have it. At the same time, I think if we go back, we take a step back here, and let's talk about a person who is just starting as a sales rep, or just starting as a technical sales, call it, in some organization it's called application engineer, in some organization it's called sales engineer, in some organization they may call it sales rep, but no, it doesn't matter what the title is, but that guy or that person is just starting as a new sales rep. And uh, and most of the time when you're starting, you're at the beginning of your career, you don't get an opportunity to start working in Fortune 500 organizations, or even in good startups. So you may end up starting with a company or an organization where you don't have a very well established sales process. So I guess then it all comes down to your own uh, self studies and self uh, call it investments of time. How much do you invest? How much do you study? How much do you read? And how much do you learn by yourself? What would you recommend if you take a step back and you go back in time 17, 18 years when you were starting, to your beginner self, if you were to start, what would you recommend at that point to that person?
Yeah, that's a great point, Wajid, because I think ultimately is focusing on simple things that can help us in that journey as a sales professional, right? I think one of the key elements which I always recommend people getting into a sales profession is focusing on listening. Listening is quite important. Oftentimes we underestimate the value of listening because the more you listen to understand, the more insights you will get from your prospect, from your customer, and ultimately the more insights you have, the better equipped you will be to propose and add value to that customer. In my view, those two elements are essential. Number one, listening to understand, listening to see where that customer, that prospect is coming from. And then, secondly, adding value. Once you are able to get insights, once you're able to establish that current state, then you work into your tactics to define what are those elements that can help that prospect, that customer, as part of their journey to solve that challenge, the problem they have. So it might sound pretty simple, but it's focusing on those key basic things, right? Whenever you're meeting, either you're getting a new account, you're trying to penetrate a new account or new territory, and you focus on the current state. So what's the current state with that organization, with that particular customer, and the desired state, right? Where do you want to go with that particular account? So once you have that clear understanding on currently where you are, where you're focusing on right now, and where do you want to go, which is kind of the strategy, then you can focus on the tactics, then you can build that specific process to basically get that customer, work closely with that customer. But back to your point at the very beginning, I think is improving those skills, which is listening, focusing on listening as much as you can in terms of gathering insights, challenges from the customers, and also focusing on, once you get insights, focusing on adding value, understanding how can I add value to this particular customer, to this particular account. Because I think that, to me, that's where you highlight the difference. You understand where they're coming from, where their challenges are, and then you see if your product, your services, your solution ultimately are in a position to add value to that customer. So very basic, let's say, elements, but to your point, that will help you build that foundation in terms of the way you conduct yourself with prospects, with customers. And in terms of methodology, as you mentioned, they're really good concepts like solution selling, value selling, even Sandler methodology, and they're all good. I mean, they all have pros and cons, and there's a lot of books, documentation, material that we can always use. But the mindset is important when we're starting in professional sales. Is focusing on trying to understand, right? So we're here to help, in a way, help customer or prospect to fix something, right? So we start uncovering pain points. We're trying to solve a problem. So you need to start understanding that you're a problem solver, right? You need to have that mindset or on helping a customer to solve a problem. And the only way that you can do that is by listening, by gathering insights, and then obviously strategizing how you can ultimately add value to the customer and help solve that specific problem.
Yeah, excellent points, Simon. I guess listening is the key. No matter if, to your point, no matter if you're starting in your career or if you're an executive level leader, if you're in a sales role, no matter where you are in on the ladder, but if you have that ability where you can listen and listen to understand, and then take those insights and work on them. And I guess all the points you made were really critical. Even the thing that you mentioned about uh, just be a problem solver, and you can only be a problem solver if you listen and you listen to understand, right? And and I guess what I'll just add to it is if you're dealing with a customer B2C or B2B, of course, list along with, besides the items that we just mentioned, listening and understanding and problem solver. One other thing I'll add is that you need to put yourself in the shoes of the customer. You need to become on their side. You need to make sure that you're actually on the sides of the customer. You're trying to help them, and you're trying to understand their problem. And then once you understand it, you're now going back to your office or to your organization to bring a solution for them. And you have to think, to be successful in sales, you have to think out of the box most of the time. Because if you bound yourself in a certain, call it, limitation, then then it takes you back to our initial point that we were talking about, the mindset. So your mindset needs to be big enough so that you can think out of the box. And all these things comes with time. But it is important, if you know it from the very beginning of your sales journey. If you start thinking like this, if you start talking like this, if you have some goal or coach or guide in your organization, or maybe outside your organization, and who can help you uh, be more, who can help you gain those skills more efficiently and more, I guess, call it, quickly, then you may be more successful, as opposed to other people who gain those insights, but they have to work 20, 30, or 40 years in the sales industry just to understand the process. So for anybody who's just starting into the sales role, it's really important for them, the points that we just mentioned here, take good notes of these points, but at the same time, try to find a, a guide or a coach or a mentor within your organization. Most of the time, you'll find people within your organization who have experience and expertise, and they can help you with. But if there's nobody within your organization, there are books, there are material available online in digital form, in books form. Just go out and do your research, and then that will help you, become more successful going forward in the coming years. Do you want to add anything to it, Simon?
I know. I think you just summarized kind of the key points there. When you one of the things as well, which is tied to what you mentioned, is understanding that customer perspective, right? Like that empathy goes a long way when it comes to sales, because ultimately we need to really understand where is the customer as part of their journey, right? It goes back to meeting the customer where they are. So not all customers are at the same stage of their process, their journey, their cycle, the level of maturity. So it's quite important, back to your initial point, to listen and trying to understand, being in their position, understanding what are those key drivers. Maybe just another thing to add, which is kind of a basic exercise that can help as well whenever we're having discussions with a customer, with a prospect, asking questions. Try to focus on open-ended questions, because when we start asking open-ended questions, we start getting more insights as well, right? We tend to probably just say, okay, well, you're having these questions, kind of or this problem, yes or no. So we're trying to wire in a way that we don't get as many insights or as much information. So it's important when we use open-ended questions, the more information we were getting, or the more insights we're getting from that customer, from that prospects, and the more we can help ultimately. So yeah, those are basic, let's say, elements, basic things, but I think they're paramount, they're essential. And the point you mentioned on the mentor, the coach, I think those it's very important as well. Oftentimes we see that in organizations we have someone to go and get some, that mentorship, that support based on their experience, based on their interactions they have had throughout their careers. So that's also something quite valuable, is being able to get that mentorship, that coaching, and even like a peer. I mean, with your peers, getting that feedback, that interaction, the more exposure you get if you're obviously starting your journey in the sales profession. But yeah, those are really good points, and I think as we continue getting into more detailed discussions and more processes, we will certainly add more information to the overall, let's say, concept of selling.
Absolutely, yeah. All great points. I think since we are heading into the last couple of minutes of our podcast, so I'll make a comment here, just kind of a wrap up comment, and then maybe Simon, you can close it up. So going forward into these podcasts, so every episode we'll try to bring more insights, something new that you could take away, take back, work on it. But for us, for both me and Simon, going forward, we would appreciate if you can give your feedback, leave your comments in the comment section. This will actually help us understand what is it that you guys are interested in learning more about from the sales, and both from leadership perspective. And going forward, we'll talk about all those key aspects of selling, like uh, when customer tells you, I need to think about it, how would you handle that situation? If the customers put a question mark on your price, how would you handle that? If the customers give you an objection, how you handle that situation? So all things that is related to sales, we're gonna talk about those in upcoming episodes. But at the same time, if there's something that you particularly would like to listen to, or to hone on to, please feel free to add it to the comment section. Simon, anything you want to add it to here before we wrap it up?
No, that's great, Wajid. I mean, you covered most of the key points there. Just wanted to highlight that, yeah, this is a great space, a platform to share experience, to add value, and ultimately be able to help, to contribute to the community and people getting into sales, regardless of your joining, just starting in your journey in the sales area, or you're basically with more experience, but ultimately adding value and getting insights, information, best practices. So we certainly look forward to continuing the discussion, to sharing more, and getting feedback as well. So I think with that, I think we can call this first initial session a really good one, and look forward to the next one for sure.
Sounds good. Thank you. And thanks everybody again for tuning in.